Hi guys, and welcome to DR Sports Game Day preview. It's myself, Abby. I'm unfortunately back with Flex after this week's United win. The last person I probably wanted to see.
No comment.
How you feeling, Flex?
Good, happy, good. Easy win midweek. Boys had a nice run out. Boys had a nice run out, ready for an actual big game against Chelsea.
Wow, so rude. That got all the shade off your chest, yeah?
Just, you asked me how I feel, so yeah, had better weeks. So.
Well, as we said off camera, it does help when the other team does turn up. But aside from that, let's have a look at actually the biggest game of the weekend, which is Chelsea taking on Manchester United. That's on 5:30 Saturday. So obviously you must be in very, very good spirits, very confident going into this game, surely. Yeah, the great United.
Get what you're trying to do, but you know, I'll ask you about your game later because you won't be feeling confident because you're awful. But
Shut up.
Big game. Confidence is there after dismantling Spurs with ease. But Chelsea's a weird one because obviously it's a new look Chelsea. It's a Graham Potter Chelsea. They're doing okay, but they're not amazing. You know, they're not free flowing. He hasn't got them to where he wants them to get to. And obviously he's inherited a squad, so he's got to try.
Well, I'd say the squad is pretty good that he's inherited.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. But in terms of Graham Potter and what he wants them to be able to do and how he wants them to play, it's still very early in his tenure. But in the lead up to that 0-0 draw they got against Brentford, he was getting them to get results, you know, and dispatch of teams. So at the Bridge, it's always a tough game, but I feel confident about this in terms of going there and getting a positive result. I think that we are more defensively solid. We're a lot harder to score against. We are going to have them little blips, you know, the embarrassing ones. You know, City was embarrassing, Brentford was embarrassing, but how we've bounced back from both of those is good. And then you look at the Newcastle game, which was before your game, when you feel like we could have won, but it could have gone a different way. We're just going to get that. Ronaldo not travelling. Good. Not in the squad.
I wanted to talk to you about the Ronaldo thing because obviously everyone who would have watched the game or didn't watch it saw what happened. Him leaving, going down the tunnel before the end of the game, refused to come on as a substitute as well. What is going on with that Ronaldo situation? How do you fix this other than just releasing him?
You just got to go in January. He's just got to get through. Ten Hag's got to just. I mean, look, we're a few weeks before the World Cup, so get to then. We come back on what, Boxing Day?
Yeah.
Then it's the January transfer window, so there's not long.
But is it not going to be the same situation he had in the summer? If he's outpricing himself or won't take a wage cut, what do United do? Yeah,
I think if in my opinion, I know again, this is just my opinion, I think if the right offer was there for Ronaldo and his agent, it would have happened. I don't necessarily think there was. You know, Roy Keane's been on record saying, I know there was offers and, you know, United should let him. I don't know. But in my opinion, I think Ronaldo's a powerful player. You know, he's achieved everything in the game. He's a legend of the game. If he needs to move, he'll move. And I just don't think the right offer was there. I don't think it was Man United particularly saying, whatever happens, you must not leave. I think I think if the right thing came along, they would have done it. But regardless of that, you're a Man United player. You know, you got to play your part. And it's
about respecting. It's about respecting your teammates and about respecting the club and also the manager.
100%. A manager who's trying to do things in a different way. And you know what? We've just beaten Spurs. There's a few minutes left of the game, right? And you've waited for that moment to make it all about you, in my opinion. Yeah. You know, all the headlines were about Ronaldo. Well, not all of them, but a lot of it was when it should have been
about celebrating the team and being a team. But
100%. And then there was news that he actually just went home.
Yeah.
So out of all that, because you were so annoyed you didn't play, you couldn't even stay and high-five the boys and say, you know what,
well
good
done,
performance.
Good job.
Even if the manager said to you, you'd definitely be getting on, but you didn't get on. That's between you and the manager. Have it out of him. Have a discussion. Shout, kick, swear, whatever you're going to do. That's fine behind closed doors. Don't do that. So, and he's come out with this pathetic half apology thing on his Instagram, saying that, you know, I'm committed and stuff like that. And, you know, sometimes the heat of the moment gets the better of you. So hopefully that's that under the carpet. But I'm so glad that Ten Hag has dealt with it swiftly. He didn't just brush it under the carpet. Man United put out a statement saying he's not going to be in the matchday squad for Chelsea.
Starters, you mean to go on?
Absolutely.
Just on Chelsea, this game, every time you two have met in the last four, I believe it's ended in a draw. Are you seeing anything from Potter so far that's making you fearful with this Chelsea side, or is it just Chelsea in general?
Yeah, I think you know, Graham Potter's a good manager. So if they do start picking up what he's putting down, you know, they can play some good football. We saw it at Brighton, how well Brighton played with players who were not as good as the players that they got at Chelsea. But that doesn't mean that it's like for like. Just because you play that fluid system at Brighton, you can just quickly go to Chelsea and it's going to work. Different profile of players, different types of players, different caliber of players, different personality,
different
egos.
Completely
You've got some big players there. So it isn't as easy as that. But it's always a tough game. It is always a tough game against Chelsea. But they know it's a tough game against Man United as well. We've travelled there quite well recently. Even last year when we were absolutely on our knees, I think we went there with Michael Carrick, an interim manager. Interim manager. Interim. Yeah, how far we've come. And still managed to get a draw there last year. So, and it was a draw at Old Trafford as well. So there's not usually a lot between us. And again, I don't look at Chelsea now and think they're the finished article like they have been in previous years.
But they are 8 Premier League games unbeaten at home.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a battle with 4th and 5th at the minute. So obviously you would go above Chelsea with the win.
We're 1 point behind them. For a reason. The teams are very, very evenly matched.
What's your prediction on this game?
I'm going to go with a draw.
I knew you were going to sit on the fence.
I just feel like we won't get beat. And that's out of respect to Chelsea. Like, I'm not saying I think we're going to go there and win. We can win. Any eventuality is possible with this, but I just feel like we won't get beat. I've got a strong feeling we won't. Okay. I'm confident in that. I'm going to go over 1-1.
Okay, I'm going to go with a Chelsea win.
How close it is. Look, 38% Chelsea win, 31% draw, 32% Man United win. Chelsea just shading it.
The poll can't split it.
No.
I think it's going to be Chelsea just. Let's have a look at some comments, shall we?
Yes, I'm using a new little system here. I don't know where that's actually gone. I've just set it up on the screen, but I couldn't actually see it. So I'm just going to read them from here. The Football Connoisseur says, nothing wrong with Ronaldo. He is a serial winner. He just needs to find the right club that want to use him in a mutual beneficial way. There's a lot of people that support this Ronaldo thing, in my opinion, in terms of like acting like it's just okay to just. Is it because it's Ronaldo?
If it was anybody else, they wouldn't feel that way.
Like, Ronaldo's a legend at Man United. He's not undoing that. That's been done. But let's please stop acting like it's okay. It doesn't matter who you are to just walk out the stadium and drive home.
Yeah.
That's Sunday league settings. You know, like, am I coming on? Nah, you're not coming on, mate.
All right.
I'll catch you next week.
Going back for my roast.
What are you doing? Yeah. Like, it's not okay. Stop justifying this thing that it's okay for Ronaldo because he's Ronaldo and scored 700 goals, which is amazing. Yeah. Unbelievable.
But it's still
to just walk off and disrespect the manager and the players when they've just won.
Players never bigger than the club.
100%.
Never any bigger than the club.
Yeah.
Okay, right, let's move on. Nottingham Forest, they're taking on Liverpool that's an early kickoff. That is a Saturday, 12:30. Earlier in the week, they drew 0-0 to Brighton, which is actually a very respectable scoreline. Liverpool with that 1-0, it probably could have been a draw between West Ham and Liverpool, to be fair. How do you see this one looking?
Tough game for Forest.
Bottom of the table.
Last couple of games, I know they picked up they got a draw against Villa as well, didn't they? Then they lost. Then they got a draw. They're just struggling to win football matches.
Why is it that they're struggling? Because it's not just this. It's just not the same squad that came up from the Championship. It's not just that they signed. I think it was 22 players or 23 players in the end. Is that probably what the problem is?
I mean, we spoke about this, didn't we? And everyone had their kind of opinion on it. How's that going to go? And you want to try and give teams the benefit of the doubt, and it wasn't all Steve Cooper's fault. There's a reason why. I think from the outside looking in, we're not Forest fans, so I think they've known they needed that high turnover, but I think they probably just went
too far. We've seen that in the past with promoted teams. I believe Fulham did it as well a few years ago, and again they went straight back down. Sometimes I think it's just too much of an overload. Maybe don't change something that's not broken yet.
Yeah.
Just touching on Liverpool. Obviously, big win last weekend against Manchester City. They're up to 7th in the table. They still haven't really, kind of hit their peak, or we haven't seen the best of Liverpool, that's for sure. Darwin Núñez, have you seen any improvement in him?
Yes, I have. He's scoring goals. He's looking sharper. He's looking like his confidence is growing. He's looking like he's understanding more how to fit into that team. Obviously, when you first come to the league at that price point, the hounds are out, isn't it? Like, we're all trying to troll. Oh, yeah, he's rubbish. He's next Andy Carroll. He's this, he's that. Look at Haaland compared to him. Waste of money. But Liverpool fans, they're loyal fans to their players, and they're, especially with this Klopp era of Liverpool, they believe in what he does. And I don't think they've too much panicked about what he's going to be offering up, and he scored a great header against West Ham, and he was lively. A few shots on his left foot as well that could have gone in. He just looked really sharp, and he's starting to come to the fruition. I mean, and the good thing about what's happened at Liverpool, even though they've had a tough start, is that Bobby Firmino has been able to step up, and it just proved how pivotal he's been in terms of Darwin Núñez comes in, big money signing. You might think that could be the end of him. And he proved why he's still a top player for them and how important he is. But yeah, Darwin Núñez is starting to do well. We've still got our eye on him. We still need him to do more. But the biggest thing is the Jota injury for them. You know,
long-term injury
long-term as well. Yeah, he's going to miss the World Cup as well. Jota's a fantastic player. I remember when Liverpool signed him, and I was like,
and it was such a great under the radar
like 35,
signing.
40 million, something like that. And I was like, wow, what signing that is. Then they got Thiago straight away after that, and I was like, wow, what signing. Typical. But he's going to be a big miss for them. He's a really, really good player, can play across the front in a variety of positions. Diaz injured as well. So they've got a lot to contend with. They've got a few injuries there, you know. But they're, I think that win against City just... look to have maybe galvanised them, and they've beaten West Ham now, so
a little bit of confidence.
They start to, this is why you can't ever just say Liverpool is done and toast.
So in terms of how many maybe would be scored in this game, but is at Forest, we've got to give them, you know, some respect. It's at Forest.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Liverpool win 3-0.
3-0. Okay, I might go for a 4-1 Liverpool.
Yeah,
4-1.
Yeah, and hopefully Forest can. Not allow Liverpool to win. I would love that, but
hopefully so.
It's not how I feel, man.
I mean, just looking at the prediction table from you guys,
73% Liverpool win.
Yeah, 6%. Is that 16? 16% say it's a draw, and just 12% for Forest. But I think that was actually quite kind.
Yes.
Lots of Forest fans in the chat today. Right, moving on to the next game. Everton taking on Palace. Everton off the back of that defeat the other night, wasn't it? They lost 1-0 away to Newcastle. Palace, on the other hand, 2-1 win over Wolves.
I think Everton have lost the last 3 in a row, actually. Lost against us, lost against Spurs, and then they lost against...
Newcastle,
so yes, 3 in a row. So... Lampard, after initially stabilising Everton and doing all right, because you know just before we played them and beat them, they had the best defensive record in the league, unbeaten in 7, and it just shows you how it can just change like that. Now they've lost 3 in a bounce.
And I think they're a massively confidence-based team, especially coming back off what happened last year. I mean, I know that every team is based on confidence, but them in particular, I don't know if they've got kind of like that grit and determination to pull themselves back up each week if you have a loss, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if we were looking at, again, sort of sackings and managers to get sacked, we'll talk about Steven Gerrard in just after this, but if you're thinking who would be the next to get sacked in terms of Cooper, Rodgers or Lampard, it's actually a bit of a difficult question because although Nottingham Forest are rock bottom...
They've just given Steve Cooper a new contract.
They've given him the backing, and I think giving him that backing in that moment, there's a realisation that they're not just going to start winning games. They're in a relegation battle to the end.
I think they've realised that, you know, coming up to the Premier League just didn't mean they were going to stay here.
Yeah.
You know, and
so I don't think it'll be him.
And he worked miracles to even get them, you know, from when he took over into the Premier League. So I think that would be unfair.
You look at Leicester with Brendan Rodgers, again, they're second from bottom. And they are sticking behind him because in a weird way... You look at the players they've got, and you just think that surely they're not going to be down there.
I think with Brendan Rodgers, it's not completely his fault. I think that COVID has had a very big knock-on effect with Leicester. I think they haven't had particularly much money to spend in the last few years since COVID. Yes, we could say it's gone stale, but I don't think he's completely to blame for the staleness. I think what he managed to achieve with Leicester has been fantastic. We go back to the beginning of last season talking about them. You know, they're going to be challenging for the top 4. They won the Community Shield, the FA Cup. But I just think that it might be a little bit unfair on Rodgers because of the situation surrounding him.
Didn't give him any players,
You know,
Lampard, they give him a bit of money.
When the purse strings are closed, there's not much you can do. There really isn't.
Yeah.
And I think they did very well to hold on to the likes of Tielemans and Maddison. That was fantastic for Leicester, and maybe a credit to Rodgers. We don't know. But with Frank Lampard, and I have said this from the beginning of the season, I did think he was going to be one of the managers to go early on.
Didn't it? Yeah. And he kind of not disproved it early on, but he went on a decent run where it was like, oh, he's not really near the bottom. And I think he was in press conferences saying, I've read things that, you know, we're going to be in a relegation zone and we're still far off where we want to be. But he was basically hitting back to say, we're doing all right. But then you look now, I think they're going to do a lot of that. that inconsistency and stuff like that, and just be in and around there.
But what is the end goal for Everton? Where should Everton be finishing? We can't go back to when Everton were, in the top 8.
Yeah,
we're very, very far from that. So what is the goal? What is Lampard striving to?
It's
mid-table?
Got to be mid-table. It's got to be 10th, 12th, between sort of 9th and 12th. They were in a relegation battle last season, so you can't expect miracles. But Everton fans will want a lot more. They will want a lot more. So I would say they need to be pushing towards mid-table, which is clearly easier said than done. But the pressure's on all of those managers whilst they're in that position, whilst they're down there. The pressure's on.
Okay. Any chats? Anything in the comments?
Yes. Leicester's. There we go. Anthony says Leicester the biggest title. But getting 80 million for Maguire and for Fana. Listen, they sell well. They definitely do sell well. And Chelsea going to win 3-0 at home. And we've got Everton surviving relegation is the goal. Says the robot will eat you. And Palace winning 3-1 because they somehow concede.
Should we be talking about Palace even more? Should we be talking about, the job that Patrick Vieira is doing? I think they're currently up to 11th in the table. Pretty good. Pretty good,
pretty solid. I think they're quite resilient. They sometimes hit a point where you want them to kick on and you think, we're going to see more out of a lot of these young players and some of the exciting players they got, and sometimes they don't quite get the results that maybe their performances deserve. But I think they are starting to cook. I think he's got them playing some nice football, and I think the players that they've got, I know he wanted to add more in the summer because he said that before the window shut and he didn't get it. But the players they have got, they can hurt you on any given day. They can. It's always a tough game against Palace. So I have been impressed with Patrick Vieira.
Especially Eze, for me. Eze's
really
been
coming to his own, isn't it?
Yeah, really good, talented young player.
Look at that 60% Palace win.
Oh, what do you reckon? What's
do you know
prediction?
what? It's at Everton though. Everton usually perform all right.
At home,
at home you can't write them off. I was surprised how poorly they played when we played them, actually. But we did play. Effect, we did play well. It's what we do to teams. It's what we do to teams. As simple as that. But I will go over Palace win. I'm going to go the community there. 61% Palace win. I think, the pressure might start to mount.
Okay. I might go with a draw. I might go with like a 1-1 on this one.
Possible.
Mix it up.
Yeah.
Okay, Manchester City taking on Brighton. City on the back of that defeat last week to Liverpool. No Haaland goal last week either. Shocking news. He's in a drought.
Yes.
I'm only joking. He's obviously not in a drought. Brighton 0-0 draw earlier in the week. How'd you see this one going?
I think initially when Brighton got that 3-3 draw against Liverpool in their first game with the new manager, you're thinking, oh wow, Brighton is still, and then since then they haven't been great. And I think that Man City will be bouncing back.
Yeah, hard.
Yeah, I mean Brighton aren't the sort of team that gets smashed. To be fair to them, they're still quite resilient. But I think it will be a comfortable. Even look at Brighton. Look, 1 win in the last 5.
Yeah, still sitting 8th in the table. See, sometimes the table lies, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You've got to look at the form, and not winning in the last 5 games is bad. And it was actually 5 games ago they last got a win as well. It wasn't like the last game they won was the last game they played. Because they drew last game, didn't they?
Yeah, they drew.
So and then they lost the 2 before that. So I think it's going to be an uncomfortable afternoon, evening, whenever the game is for them. Man City win this 2-0, 3-0, 3-0. No, 2-0. I'll put a bit straight because Brighton I don't think they capitulate. But
I might go 2-1.
Haaland, what's this? Predictions: either a Haaland hat trick, a draw, or Brighton win.
Nothing in between. Just
get
Haaland
out of
hat
his
trick.
backside.
Haaland hat trick.
You can't do that. That's disrespectful to Brighton.
But you'd back that though.
No, I'm not backing that. Haaland's not scoring.
I might do that. What did you say?
Out of just sheer being annoyed.
2-0. I'm going to change my thing.
What, to 3-0 and Haaland hat trick?
No, I'm going to do 3-1. Haaland hat trick.
Oh, Haaland's not scoring a hat trick.
Why not?
I might be eating my words here because he obviously
He probably will.
He can. But just in the interest of get out of Haaland's behind, no. He might score 2.
So salty.
Yeah,
very salty over here.
Yeah, he scored actually against us. So.
Right, moving on. Aston Villa facing Brentford. We've got a lot to talk about on the Aston Villa front. Obviously, Steven Gerrard has now been sacked after a very poor run of form, even going back to last season. What are your thoughts on that sacking?
Just couldn't get his groove. Just couldn't get his groove, and rightly so. You look at Villa's players, and I say this all the time. I look at their team, and you look at them and think they've got to be pushing top 8. Why not? Why, with
Yeah,
the players
with the squad they've got, yeah.
You know, they should be looking to push there. Definitely above mid-table at a bare minimum. And you know what? It was a long time coming. He just, you know, they've got talented players. You saw a couple of moments, and they just couldn't get any consistency. And when you're losing games like they were losing, when you're playing how they were playing, and you lose the away fans, the away fans were chanting against him yesterday at Craven Cottage. You're done. And the writing was on the wall. And Gerrard's no fool. He said it in his press conference. He's been around the game a long time. He knows how these things work. And he just flattered to deceive. And it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. Obviously, still early in his, career. Managerial career, I mean, very early.
Liverpool fans were tipping him to, replace Klopp.
Million, trillion miles off that. And this is why you have to go up the gears and can't just rush.
Well, of course, fantastic job at Rangers. But a little bit, kind of a bit similar to Frank Lampard, really. When his time at Derby was quite good. Going to Chelsea, it was a massive, massive jump for him. And that obviously didn't work out. And then ending up at another big club like Everton. Maybe sometimes you just need a smaller jump than going to, such an iconic team as Aston Villa are, for example. Yeah,
it's true. It just proves that, just because you're a great player, it doesn't mean that you're going to, make a great manager. And it takes a lot of work. You have to really, really prove it, especially at this level in the elite. If we're talking about who's going to replace him, Pochettino. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that. You've got Unai Emery there.
Unai Emery.
Michael Beale.
I think Thomas Tuchel.
Tommy T.
Could you see him?
Villa. Sean Dyche, Thomas Frank. Do you know what? Thomas Frank's a really...
We should get Sean Dyche back. Let's get him back in the Premier League.
You can't go Villa. Nah, you can't. Big up Sean Dyche, though. He did do an amazing job with Burnley.
He did.
Can't see him going to Villa.
No.
But you see Thomas Frank, I think he loves Brentford, and I don't think he would leave.
Yeah.
But that would be interesting. Do you think Richard Pochettino, and this is no disrespect to Villa, do you think he's waiting for like a better team?
Honestly, I think he's waiting to come.
Champions League
I think he's waiting to come back to Spurs.
You reckon?
I think he's waiting to see what happens with Conte. I think ideally he'd like to go to like a Madrid or someone like that, but they're very settled in terms of Simeone, Ancelotti. That's just not going to happen anytime soon. So I honestly think that if Conte's contract is up at the end of the season, if there is not a new one signed,
so short term.
If there's not a new one signed, and I genuinely think they might be waiting to come back.
Wow.
Which is fine.
So if he did go to Villa, would you be gutted? Because that would be something.
Yeah,
that
you remember when we were talking about it last season? I don't want him to go anywhere because it's like.
He's yours.
He's ours. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable with him anywhere, especially in the Premier League. Outside of the Premier League, I don't care. But in the Premier League, I wouldn't like it. It'd be like seeing someone you love with someone else.
Yeah, it's just not what you'd want to see.
It's like if you saw Ronaldo at another Premier League club. All right, before he came back and he annoyed
when
you.
It was a City thing.
Yeah,
I hear
you. That type of thing.
But now it is what it is. If you wanted to.
Well, now, you're over it. We get it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who wins that. But I think he would be a good fit at Aston Villa.
I'm sure you would.
I do, not just to laugh at you lot, but I do. I think he's a progressive manager with still a lot to offer.
He would be. He'd do well with that team. I'd be surprised if he took it. I would be surprised.
Yeah, I think he's waiting for Champions League, a European club.
I think that's what he would be waiting for, to be honest with you. Just to touch on Brentford before we move on. Brentford really well, 0-0 in that draw against Chelsea last week. At Brentford.
Yeah, I don't think neither team did anything to win it, but it's a better point for Brentford than it is Chelsea.
It's a great point for Brentford, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, really good. Okay, so having a look at that, what's your prediction for this game?
They're going to have an interim manager. You just don't, you see, with this, you could get of Aston Villa that the pressure's off, the manager's gone, and then the interim. Look what Gary Neal done. At Bournemouth, the manager just comes and says, "Listen, I don't know how long I'm going to be here for, but this is Aston Villa.
Yeah.
You go out there, you give it, give the fans something, and they could just be bouncing. The fans." Not that they obviously did want Gerrard to get sacked, but they didn't want it to end up like that. But the fans have got what they wanted, so there will be a little bit of a lift in terms of the club have acted.
Yeah.
So there could be.
This is a draw.
Yeah.
This has got a draw all over.
I'm actually gonna go over Villa win.
Are you?
I'm gonna go over Villa win just because, and I could be wrong. There might be no bounce because there still is no manager and there's still no confidence. But that's the funny thing about football. I think that Villa, no pressure. They haven't got a manager. They're just going to go for it against Brentford, and I think they'll win the game.
All right, I'm going to go 1-1 on this game. Right, Leeds taking on Fulham. If Leeds had a striker, can we just talk about this? If Leeds had a striker that could finish, put the ball in the back of the net, or if they had Rafinha from last season, they would have beat Arsenal last weekend, yes or no?
Yeah, Arsenal were very lucky.
They were very lucky.
Arsenal fans will tell you that. On the flip side, for Arsenal, I know we'll talk about them a bit later, but, you know, that is how you maintain a good... Yeah, that is
grind out results.
You need, isn't it?
I thought Leeds looked really good, though.
They did.
Second
They're
half.
a weird team, yeah.
They're just lacking something, aren't they? They're just lacking a bit of firepower or something just to get them over the line, because their build-up play is great. And I think that we're seeing the difference of what happened last season when you had the likes of someone like a game changer in Rafinha that could do that for you. And that's what they don't have anymore.
Yeah, I agree. But then you look at the performance against Leicester. Excuse me. Not good. You know, scored an own goal. Harvey Barnes, the way he scored as well was just easy. They just didn't give a good account of themselves, but they got up for it against Arsenal. Again, inconsistency is probably their middle name. Jesse Marsh just can't get that consistency out of them. On any day, you know, they can give you a game, but also they're capable of making it relatively easy for you.
Yeah, they can do that.
And I think this game against a Fulham team that are quite confident as well, Mitrovic is scoring goals. They just dispatched of Aston Villa really easily. This is a tough game, but it's at Ellen Road, isn't it? So
it is at Ellen Road.
I'm going to...
Fulham are up to 9th in the table. Leeds is still in 16th.
Yeah, you can't just...
But the league is odd. The league is very, very odd.
Yeah, and Ellen Road's just that play. I'm going to go draw. I just think that Leeds will just be back at it a little bit because it's at Ellen Road. But I don't think they beat Fulham because Fulham are quite resilient. And again, you can't write them off. Look at them. They're doing well,
but then did you just say you go for Leeds?
No, draw.
Sorry, you went for a draw.
Draw.
I don't know. Fulham are going to be confident, aren't they, from that midweek win over Villa? I'm going to go Leeds on this. I'm going to go 2-1. I don't know where they're getting the goals from, but I'm just going to go 2-1.
Okay.
Leeds, because I was really impressed with the way that they played in that second half. I was equally extremely disappointed that they couldn't help me out. Yeah. But hey ho. Moving on, Southampton facing Arsenal. Southampton off the back of their win against Bournemouth. Che Adams with the goal. We were looking at that header before, weren't we? It was a great header. Arsenal super confident, aren't they, at the moment? Who is stopping Arsenal? Never thought I'd say that.
Not Southampton. Not Southampton, in my opinion. They're, again, another team that's inconsistent. Every time I speak about Southampton, I feel I say the same thing.
I feel, though, these two do have a history of sometimes Southampton getting the better of Arsenal.
Yeah, Southampton, they beat Chelsea there. They've had some decent results this year, but then other times they flatter to deceive, and then it's like feels a bit flat. You hear some reports in the media that the players aren't happy with Hassan, who was a bit... Yeah. It's a bit meh.
But I feel like those rumblings have been there for a while.
Yeah, he's just always just... But he never does, like... He never does enough to completely, like, rid those kind of rumours of, like, nah, Southampton are going in the right direction. Yeah. It's fine. But never does enough to, like, nah, sack him. Do you know what I mean?
Because I think you have to just look at where Southampton are. Well, just looking at them in the table at the minute, they're 14th. But that is kind of about... right. Do you think they should be achieving more? Yeah, it isn't just... I don't think it's just the league position. The league position, like you said, is probably what's stopping them getting sacked. Yeah. If they were in the bottom three, but playing the way they've been playing... They've been in worse situations than this.
Yeah, especially last year.
This is a good start to the season for Southampton, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, they've got one win in the last 5 as well, and then they had a run of 3 straight defeats in that run, then drew one and then won the last one. So, inconsistency. And I suppose you're right. You can say, what can you expect from that Southampton team? But, and look, last year they did actually beat Arsenal 1-0. But that game, it was a bit of a, not lucky game, but I remember watching that game and Arsenal... Obviously, Arsenal were not the same side that they were last year. Arsenal not the same side. But, in hindsight, they against the big teams, you can argue that Southampton do give them a good game.
They do. We just won, they do.
Closely 1-0 there. Then they beat Chelsea there this season. So
you can get a result.
Yeah, at St Mary's, you've got to give them a bit of credit. I remember last year they travelled well and played against Big Six and they got good results. I think they did well against Spurs when they beat Spurs. Man City, they drew home and away, I believe. So they against the big teams, they can do it. But I can't see... Wow, look at that, 84%.
The poll's only up for a minute, to be fair. It's only been up for 1 minute. Let's get some more votes in. I'm looking at those.
You can see the way it's going to
Southampton one's going up. Yeah, get those Southampton votes in, guys, for the win. I just have to talk to you about Arsenal for a minute, because are we looking at Arsenal as real title contenders, or is it still too soon to... should we be talking about this after the World Cup, after the new year?
I just think you just need to give Arsenal credit for where they are now. I know that might be obviously difficult as a Spurs fan, but if you take that out for the purpose of this, you can be neutral.
I can be neutral. Yeah. I can say I don't like it.
Yeah.
I can also, commend them and Mikel Arteta on the way that they've improved. I think their signings in the summer were, really smart. I think they've been super well integrated into the team. I think that they look a whole different outfit. However, Arsenal tend to usually capitulate in the new year, around that February, March time. For me, that is the real test. Yeah, they've got... I think all that can happen with Arsenal is that that wasn't a dig either, by the way. All they can do is face each test when it comes, because a lot of the things that we're labelling at Arsenal are things that actually we haven't allowed the time to pass yet to see what happens. Every test they've had, apart from at Old Trafford, they've passed. Yeah. They've won every single game apart from that. They haven't even drawn any games. And that's even in the Europa League. But can we take some things from that Leeds game last week, that they are beatable? Of course they are. Listen, man, Arsenal are not unbeaten. They've been beaten this year. Do you know what I mean? They're not. They haven't not lost the game. But this is their greatest ever start to a Premier League season. You know what I mean? We have to put respect on that. And give credit. And so far, they are top of the league by 4 points. The table doesn't lie. And it's not like... after 1 or 2 games where it's we'll see. It's just getting double figures games now. So are they back to your question, are they title challengers? I'm going to say this. They're title challengers until they're not. Okay. We can say that City will do this, City will do that, and that's fine. And Arsenal should be taking it game by game. I need that day to come around real quick. Yeah, I get it. I can't have Arsenal win the league as well. I need that day. Goodness, it'll be unbearable. Oh God, the thought of it, honestly, it gives me hives. But you look at the feel about the place there, Arsenal. You look at how the fans have galvanised, the team have galvanised the fans, the connection with the fans. It's nothing. When you think about how broken that club was, and the connection with the fans and between the players and the fans, and even with the managers, I think that it is a real credit to Mikel Arteta for what he is building there. I have to say it is. Look, the admin here, there's a few Arsenal. We're in serious Arsenal territory right now. The history says Arsenal should win the league with this start. Well, history says a lot of things. History does say a lot. But look, history does say it doesn't go off that. It goes off. Realistically, what we do know, which is evidence, and evidence-wise, and this is away from Arsenal, we know that City can put up 90-plus points, to win this league. Can Arsenal match it? Can Arsenal do that? That's the key. So far, they're doing well. That's all we can say. But I think they will beat Southampton. Okay, right. Let's have a look in the chats, because I'm sure there's a lot of Arsenal fans that want to talk in here. Just quickly, says, so Flex would rather City win the league than Arsenal. You know how mad that is? Yes. That actually... I don't know any City fans in it, and City still have a long way to go. So you don't know any City fans? Not really, not a lot, not a lot. Not like the ones I do know, like big up Tom. I do know a few. Big up Steve McInerney. I do know a couple, but not. Keep that. Big up Kennedy. Keep that. But I don't know loads. Yeah, I don't. It's not really that. And do you know what it is about Arsenal winning it that just sickens me? It just. I can't. Would just be unbearable. Realistically, I should not mind if Arsenal win it. At least, our rivals in City, but City is just... I still just see City as whatever. Nah, Arsenal winning it. Nah. Can't bear the thought. Can't bear the thought. No. Right, moving on. Wolves facing Leicester. Wolves, again, since they sacked Bruno Lage, still managerless. They sit in 18th in the table. Leicester 19th in the table. So this is kind of battle of the bottom, isn't it? 6 point of that. Massive game. I don't really know what to say on this game, to be honest with you. I'm a little bit... I don't really know what to call it. Where is it? It's at Wolves. It's at Wolves. It's at Molineux. Tough place. It is still a tough place to go, Molineux. Wolves look bad, man. It's not scoring goals. I watched them against Palace, and I know they did score in that game. But other than that, a lot of possession, decent build-up playing at moments, but they really didn't... Look at Cecil. Cecil in the chat. Go clear off Cecil if you win it. Yeah. Cecil said, if Arsenal win, you will not want to see him. Of course not. He'll be unbearable. I don't even want to see him now. Yeah, I mean either. Me neither. But if they do capitulate, and we will be seeing you. Imagine it capitulating. Arsenal didn't even make top 4. That would be the dream. They have to sack Arteta. Oh, that would be the dream. But that would be the dream. Fingers crossed. But anyway, back to Wolves, Leicester. I think Wolves look flat. Yeah. They do. They need direction. They're so far off that Wolves that
was so refreshing for a good 2 to 3 years in the Premier League. When they first come up, they took the Premier League by storm. Second season under, not Bruno Lage, your guy, Santa Espirito Nuno.
Oh yeah, Nuno. My guy, my guy.
Done well in their second season, which held Nuno in high spirit to even get that Spurs job.
Yeah.
He was a well thought of manager at that point.
Well, I think Spurs were just flailing and
Just will take anything.
took anything they could at that point.
100%. And yeah, I think that since that version of Wolves, when Raul Jimenez was so prolific, you look at Neves was doing his thing, Podence was doing his thing, Neto, all these players, and it just hasn't been it so far. So just not scoring goals. So I think that's a low scoring. I think Leicester will win actually. No, draw. If any,
I think this is a draw.
This could even be 0-0.
I think I'm going to go 0-0 on that one.
I'm going to go 1-1.
Okay, make it interesting.
Yeah.
I would like to just skip over Tottenham, but I think we probably will have to talk
we've got
about
to do it because this is a big game. This is a tough game. Tottenham were absolutely disgraceful against Manchester United.
Preach.
They were anti-football.
It's not even that they were anti-football. They didn't even bother to get off the bus. They were so poor.
Yes.
Not just the team, the manager.
Yes.
Not making a substitution until 80 plus minutes. No in-game management, just stubbornness, anti-football. You can say what you want that Martinez marked Kane out the game.
Did.
Kane had no service. That midfield was flailing. It was struggling. The defence was all over the place. And honestly, thank God for Lloris. I have to say, in big games, Lloris is usually the one that doesn't step up at times.
Saved you from
He
being
saved us. That
embarrassing,
could have been, oh God, honestly.
Could have been about 5-0.
Could have been more than that. That first half, it was pepper.
Yeah, he should ask for
it was
double time.
Non-stop. It was bad. It was really, really bad.
Actually, all banter aside, I couldn't believe how bad he was.
I will give you credit, but I think that we were so bad. So bad. And I think that the way that you were just coming peppering up one after the other, after the confidence in you grew so much. And for us, we just couldn't do anything. We just did not.
You couldn't live with it.
It's like rabbit in the headlights. And I think that with Spurs, we do this every time we have a big game. Not saying at home. We don't tend to do that so much at home, but I think away from home, we are renowned for having terrible records at every single one of the top 4, top 6 rivals. We just can't do it. And I don't know what it is. It's that soft underbelly, which the only manager that kind of got it out of us for a period was Pochettino. And people, were fearful of Spurs and that team he'd built. I do not know what goes on inside their head, but for me, I think just as much there to blame, Conte is 100% to blame as well for that loss, because the stubbornness, not changing it. What's the point of changing it at 80 minutes? You could have changed it at half time. They were terrible first half, and even worse in the second half. And there was not anyone other than Lloris that deserved to be on that pitch. So for me, he could have minimised the damage. He could have changed something on and done it earlier in the game. And I don't know, I'm just at a loss. I was so angry. I'm still angry.
Can tell.
I'm still angry.
Can tell.
I'm still angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Tough one to say. Yeah, it happens. Happens, man. No, now you got Newcastle and you ain't beating them. Tell you that.
How did you find Newcastle last week?
Very tough. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm telling you from experience. Just played against them. Very solid team. We could have won. We created towards the end. We could have nicked it. But Joe Linton hit the bar, then the post in one action, should have scored. Other than that, that's the only thing they created. But I think that'll be I think that's another draw.
Yeah, because they're coming off the back of a win as well.
Yeah, they're very confident. They're one place behind Man United. They are very confident. Look at them. And we've played the game more than them, but they're 1 point behind us. I think that just to go back to that Man United game, you were really poor. But also, when a team does press you, when a team does put you under pressure and move the ball quickly, like the top teams do against you, whether it's Arsenal, whether it's been us, who else have you played?
I have to say, I think the Arsenal game.
Struggle.
I do think the Arsenal game is a bit of an odd one, because I think for all its worth, and this is not me actually being biased, I think that considering how good Arsenal have been and how poor we've been in times in those big games, I actually didn't think we were that bad. I think had we not,
wasn't as bad as it was against us.
Yeah, definitely not. I think had we not have had the sending off, I still think we might have got another one back in that game.
You reckon?
I just don't think we help ourselves. Dropping one in the back of the net,
but it's the way
we are the makers of our own downfall.
Yeah, but the way Conte plays, especially against the big teams, because I don't know how the players feel about this, but he's just openly basically saying we're nowhere. The better teams, even though we're where we are in the league and our best start in the league so far, we ain't at it. We ain't as good as them. And he almost sets them up with that belief that they can't be better than that.
But is that what he's? But I don't know. I don't know if he's saying that before the game.
No, but
is he saying that after the game to take the heat off of him?
Well, no, I might not say, but even by the way he sets you up. Don't go and press. Just sit there. Just try and soak it up. Don't be proactive.
But this is Conte football. This is Conte football. And it's not something that's particularly attractive. And I have sat here at this desk and I've sat here on AFTV when we did the Arsenal preview. And I've openly said that I don't mind playing this way as long as you win, because it is anti-football and it's definitely not in, the DNA of Spurs to go and play football like this and have no creative player in the middle of the park. Nothing at all. But if you're winning, it's fine. It's when you're not winning, it's the same as Mourinho. Maybe not as bad. Yeah. I think the squad is better than what we had under Mourinho. But I would also say, I think Kulusevski is a massive loss for Spurs. I think obviously no Richarlison now. And you're losing your, any attacking threat you kind of do have. And it's just making Kane and Son isolated because you never signed anyone like an Eriksen who you should have just gone back and got in the summer.
Sorry.
On a free.
The poll's polling right now.
The poll is polling. We should have just gone and got someone who could play that creative role rather than relying on wing-backs.
You had three centre midfielders who were exactly the same.
Because if you want to play Conte football, you need to have two good full-backs. And unfortunately, I think Perisic is good, but you've got to have someone to balance it the other side.
Well.
He's old, but I think that I can understand the signing. You've got Jed Spence on the bench who he says isn't ready to, kind of step up and be in that level. Well, I really like Jed Spence. He was who I wanted to sign in the summer personally. But then you've got someone like Emerson Royale still being there. Actually, I didn't think he was that bad. Yeah. I really didn't. I gave him a solid 5 out of 10.
Solid.
That was one of the higher ones. Trust me.
Solid 5 out. That's what you start with, isn't it? 5.
That was one of my higher ones.
Solid 5 out of 10.
That was one of my higher ones. Yeah. Anyway, so predictions on this one, please, guys.
I would like to go with the majority and say Newcastle will do ya, just to pound the misery, and I would love to do that, but I just think it'll be a draw.
Draw.
Are you confident after the back of that? Do you think you'll bounce back, put Newcastle to the sword?
I feel like we've got no bounce in us, but I still think we'll win. I still think it might just be a 1-0.
Yeah, it's not going to be a lot of goals in it. If you do win, you have to work really hard to beat Newcastle.
Yeah.
Really stubborn side.
1-0 Spurs. God knows though. Let's have a look. Let's see what defensive calamity we can come up with this week. And finally, West Ham facing Bournemouth. West Ham earlier in the week, obviously they lost to Liverpool, but they probably should have taken something from that game, shouldn't they? Yes,
they should have. I think that Bournemouth have been resurgent, man. They have.
They did lose to Southampton.
I know they lost that last game, but they've been on a decent run. They've stabilised themselves. West Ham have, after an awful start when they were kind of rooted to the bottom, and you're thinking, tell you what, they're in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, they've moved up.
They've managed to move up as well. What was their last game again?
West Ham.
Yeah.
Liverpool.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, and you know what? They did okay.
Yeah.
They did okay against Liverpool. You could argue that Liverpool could have scored more as well. But Jarrod Bowen missed the penalty, and you get that to 1-1. It does change everything, and could have given them something to hold on to. So really disappointed that he would have missed that. But I think West Ham win this. It's at the London Stadium as well. I think they beat Bournemouth.
Score?
2-0.
I was going to do that, so I'll make it different. I might just go with like a
3-1.
No.
1-0.
I think I might go 1-1.
Really?
Yeah.
But you don't really believe that because you just said you was going to go.
I don't really believe it, but I'm just going to give something different. Why not? Let's mix it up. Some things, happen when you believe, Flex. Let's look at some comments. Let's have a little look. I did see one just talking about Jed Spence, saying that it kills him as a Nottingham Forest fan to see Jed Spence on the bench.
I don't know. Jeff says no. Nunez was on fire. He had 4 chances. Harry says 3-0 West Ham, 2-0 Bournemouth. Says Karen. And the robots will eat you. Oh, he's talking to someone else. It's so funny when they're having conversations with each other. It's good that the community do that. And Reese says 2-1 to West Ham. Did someone say West Ham 4-0? Man United will win 2-1 as well, says Karen. And some things happen when you believe, says Ram. So it's basically saying that Spurs, you can believe all you want that you're going to win something, win a trophy, but
I'm just happy I get to now leave Flex for another week or so, because his attitude to this whole United win has been appalling.
No, because you know what? I've
been trolled for 2 days, Flex.
Good. And you know what? This is the show where we reflect back on what's happened and look forward to what's going on. And you know what? You had the most to say about Man United when we were bottom of the table. Before you went off on holiday and all of that, came back saying, oh, you might still be bottom
you might have
and
been
all that.
At that time.
Yeah, well, look now. You know, we're still below you, so there you go. You're still flying high. Look, you're third in the
Flying high. Flying high. Well, that is it for this week. We'll be back with you next week, of course. Make sure you stay tuned on DR Sports all weekend for all the live games and coverage. And we will see you next week. Have a great weekend.